The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, welcome to the Mind, Body, Spirit Show. Today, I think you're going to find this very interesting. It's a show about some little guys called viruses. Time I get done, I think you'll know a lot more about them. And they're extremely important. The single biggest threat to man's continued dominance in the planet is the virus. Yes, it's huge. Bill Gates, whose name you recognize, wrote a famous book, and I'll hold it up for you after a little while. And the title of it was How to Prevent the Next Pandemic. It means the next infection with the viruses all over the world. So he had some ideas in there, but I'll add mine on top of it too. Where they learned about the virosphere, about the viruses a little bit, was the tobacco mosaic virus, and we'll speak more about that as we go on. It was on a tobacco farm. Many years ago, they noticed all the tobacco leaves were withering away and they were dying. They were infected with a virus. And that's where we discovered the virosphere. And in 2000, down about 1,000 feet, 50 miles southeast of Mexico, there were minor caves. I mean, you're talking about way down, and I mean way down, and they discovered little caves 30 by 90 feet wide, and they were full of swarms of virus crystals. Yeah. And it's interesting is that we ourselves have on us in our lungs about 170 friendly different viruses. Normal people. Would you believe it? Would you believe it? So virology, the study of viruses, is a science in its infancy. It's just beginning. We're learning more and more, and that's what this show is all about. This is the beginning of your knowledge. Okay, so we knew about them. We called them different names, even in Roman times, and it was venom from snakes or semen. And they were full of viruses. We didn't know what they were. We hadn't seen them, but we were aware of them, okay? And over the centuries, they could spread diseases, yes. I mean, there were times that millions of people were just wiped out. So, and let's talk about the meaning of the word virus. So the model of meaning, modern meaning agriculture catastrophes is where we learned about them. And so tobacco was swept by a disease in the Netherlands. Remember, I talked about the tobacco mosaic virus. But there we started paying attention to them, and they became visible to us. We knew they were around, but we never did see them. And so the Earth, why am I so passionate about this today? The Earth is a planet of viruses. They're everywhere. They're our skin, they're in our bowels, they're in our plants, they're in our trees, other animals. So life as we know it may have gotten its start 4 billion years ago from viruses, because they had some DNA, RNA in them, maybe not very much, but that's what we built our plants and animals and humans. The uncommon cold is called a rhinovirus, conquered the world. It went everywhere. It didn't kill most people. 3,500 years ago, they called it Resh, R-E-S-H, but that really was a rhinovirus, just a different name at that time. Okay, so the present rhinoviruses are close relatives of them. Hippocrates blamed humors. They didn't know about the virus. They called them humors at that time. In 1914, a German man named Walter Kruse, he was a microbiologist, and discovered that viruses have only about 10 genes. Yeah, our body has 20,000 genes, but the virus is about 10 genes. What's interesting too, which I plan to teach you more about, is viruses, some people think they're not a living thing. They don't have a metabolic system. They get their energy by entering other cells, yes. And they more commonly enter the cells of people that have a lot of sugar in them. I don't think that's emphasized enough in the books that I'm reading, because to me that would be one way of fighting a virus off, by keeping your sugar down. In New York City, when the coronavirus hit, 80% of the people were diabetic. They had more sugar in their cells. The viruses steal the sugar. Interesting. So then the making social distancing, masks, one way to cut down on the amount of infections that you have. But poor countries don't have the masks, and they don't teach us much about restricting contact. Now we regulate travel a bit. If we know a virus is coming along, a epidemic where it's in one country, we don't allow people to travel as much, because they would spread the virus around. And travel is extensive these days, so we are spreading them around. Well, we need to learn more about the life of a virus. They may say it's related, more commonly infects people with hypertension or diabetes or cancer, but they don't say why. We know why. They're sugar eaters, just like cancer is a sugar eater. But like I said, viruses most people think are not a living thing. And we could take advantage of that by starving them to death or to get vaccinated. So, but how can we fight viruses? Well, build a great team, okay? Improve disease surveillance, that we catch it early. And I think make new vaccines. It's another way to cut down on the amount of viral infections, okay? And have a strong health system, which we do not. So what is a virus? They're small infectious particles that replicate inside cells, very small. We didn't know about them years ago. We could not see them with a microscope, but when they developed electron microscopes, which magnifies things a great deal, we began to see them. Okay, and what the viruses would do, they have no metabolic system. They need to borrow the energy from another cell and to enter the cell and hijack the cell's machinery to make thousands of copies of themselves, which in turn goes to infect and leaves other cells, and they steal the energy from that cell. So the energy made available to them is the way to regulate them. But viruses are very small. Coronaviruses, which you heard about recently, Corona-19, has a diameter of 100 nanometers. That's really small, nanometers. 1/1000th of the width of a hair. 1/1000th of the width of a hair is the size of a virus. So they're invisible to microscopes. Human cells are 1,000 times larger. Mm-hmm. And human cells, they have thousands of different proteins. Viruses may have only 10 different proteins, which are sticking out as receptors on the surface, and still are able to enter another cell and steal energy, genetic material, and remake themselves. So how can a small number of proteins get so much done? The proteins are the projections from the viruses, the receptors that stick the cell, so it's like a lock and key. That's how they get in the cell. Success of all viruses is that they can escape detection. That because cells of animals, humans, can send out antibodies and kill the viruses, but many escape detection, and they're the ones that go in the cell, hijack part of the DNA and RNA of the cell, reformulate themselves, duplicate, and spread throughout the world. Viruses are the most common biological elements on Earth. How about that? Let me read it again. Viruses are the most common biological elements on Earth. That's why there are trillions and trillions and trillions exist. And they were identified in the 19th century as small particles to pass through thin filters. When they were looking for bacteria and viruses, they used filters. And they noticed an agent was going through the filter and yet cause disease, so they knew there was something smaller. And one of the first ones was the tobacco virus that they discovered. In the 20th century, identified many different viruses associated with rare diseases. Yes, measles, rabies, AIDS, smallpox, influenza. Viruses are most common and most diverse. They are very diverse. The genetic information is in its genome, but it's very different. It can be a small number of genes, but they show a pattern in information on how it replicates encoded in the RNA and the DNA of the host, not themselves. So viruses can use RNA or DNA. DNA viruses, examples are herpes and smallpox. RNA viruses can be influenza and coronaviruses. Yes. What are the coronaviruses? They're part of a family called Coronaviridae, infect many mammals and birds. And we heard them a lot because we had a world pandemic. Remember, world is pan, local will be epidemic, okay? They called that because electron microscopy, where you magnified it tremendously, shows spikes on top of the virus, sticking up like this, spikes. They're the ones that send out and receive the messages from other. And the virus looked like a crown, okay? That's the reason they call it coronavirus. It was round. It was like to have a crown on your head. Viruses are the most prevalent biological entity on our planet. It's not us humans, or it's viruses. They're the most prevalent biological system on our planet. Most coronaviruses have one host, but some infect many. SARS, which is the actual virus itself, infects many mammals, cats, dogs, humans, bats, where coronaviruses are found in birds and mammals, cats, camels, and in humans. I mean, they're everywhere. 7 different coronaviruses infect humans. They have a seasonal pattern. They're more common in the fall and in the spring. And and some of them even cause cancer. So what is the structure of a coronavirus? It is round and has spike proteins sticking up. Yeah. I think you're learning a lot about them. So age and sex and other diseases also affect death rates. COVID-19 death rates increase with age, a little bit higher in males than females. It infects 4.7% of males, 2.8% of females, more common over age 80, and less common in children. So other diseases play important roles too. Whether you're going to infect it or not, whether you have high blood pressure or you have diabetes or vascular disease, respiratory disease, and your age. So diabetics characterized by high sugar in the blood are much more likely to get infected. So one way, so when Bill Gates writes this wonderful book, How to Prevent the Next Pandemic, I did notice in the book, and I'll hold it up a minute, and let's face it, a very intelligent individual. Here, I encourage you to read it. And that he took an interest in this, how to prevent the next pandemic across the world. But I will say, there's not a word, I've read it for a second time recently, there's not a word in there about who's more likely to get it, which could be no diabetes, which 80% of my town, Fort Wayne here, is diabetic. The whole state's that way nationally. Rates are extremely high if people were tested properly with serum insulins, which are elevated 15 years before the blood sugar goes up. It is the influenza virus related to the coronavirus. Definitely not. The genome of influence is a lot smaller. They're a lot smaller virus. And the enemy of our enemy, bacteria, phages, the ones that could help us. And at the turn of the century, they knew that viruses were small, caused certain diseases. Tobacco mosaic disease was where they first noticed it. World War I, physicians got a glimpse of the greater universe in which we live. Viruses became more prevalent. So in 1915, Frederick T. W.O.R.T. discovered by accident a way to wipe out smallpox. And he had discovered a virus that killed bacteria. And then a Dr. Harelli discovered viruses that killed bacteria and named them bacterial phages. We could take advantage of that. Russia secretly developed huge institutes of bacterial phage research. You could begin to see that really you could start a war with the viruses. You could start a war with the drones that we have today. We could fill them full of viruses and send them to an enemy, infect the people. And if they don't have vast or social distancing and they don't rapidly respond to it, they could wipe out a nation like that. Don't need bombs. Viruses can be bombs. I mean, it's very interesting. And here's something which was a surprise to someone and to us, and it's the most recent discovery, the infected ocean. Wow. How marine phages rule the sea. 1986, a graduate student, State University of New York, Lita, L-I-T-A, Proctor, P-R-O-C-T-O-R, decided to see how many viruses are in seawater. That was thought, there are no viruses in there. Well, I'll tell you, consensus was there were few viruses in water. She went to the Caribbean, scooped up some seawater, took it back home, looked under an electron microscope, remember it's highly magnified, discovered a world of viruses. Yes, as recently as 1986. Would you believe it? Every liter of seawater had 100 billion viruses. Every liter of seawater had 100 billion viruses. Yes. Other scientists studied that too, and they agreed. And then the viruses in the ocean, the number 10, and about 10 times 3, yes, that's the number. You see, it's unbelievable. There are more than 100 billion times more viruses in the ocean than grains of sand on all the beaches. Okay, only a minute fraction infect humans. You can go swimming, and odds are pretty high you will not get infected with the virus, although it could happen. So the most common targets are other bacteria. They want to get in those little fellows and steal their energy, because viruses have a metabolic system. Bacteria have a metabolic system. Viruses do not. They need energy from somebody, okay? Just like bacteria in our bodies. We have bacteria throughout our gut, on our skin, and they eat every day. Sometimes they eat other bacteria, sometimes they eat viruses, sometimes they eat our food. Our gut biome is a living thing within our body. And every liter of water, say from the ocean, generates about 100 billion new viruses every day. What do you think? Viruses are indeed dominating the world. Yeah. So one thing we've concluded from all this is that life gets started in the oceans. You can understand that. Viruses were here before us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then the bacteria, and then the fishes, and eventually we stepped out as humans. So it's part of evolution. Let's get back to Bill Gates a minute, maybe the most intelligent man in the world, how to prevent the next pandemic. And recently, a few days ago, on the TV, coming from Indianapolis, I noticed Robert Kennedy, Governor Van Braun, and Dr. Oz put on a show, how to make Indiana healthy again, just like you've heard from the federal government, make America healthy again. So, and I would like for you to look at it. Just Google it and find a YouTube show and see what opinion you get about it. And so remember what I said, viruses are sugar eaters. I've listened to the show twice now. I found a letter in a newspaper recently at the library, so I'll read that over too. And I really wonder if they have the solution, because when we are addicting our children to sugar in the schools, pull up school lunch for in Indiana, and you see cinnamon buns and soda pop. They're feeding our kids, so what are they graduating? Sugar addicts. Mm-hmm. When viruses love sugar, what do you think is going to happen in the next epidemic? It will really spread through our city. And let's go back. So are these three guys that I listened to the other day going to solve this problem? I listened to it twice, and I listened to it again, and I asked somebody else to look at it, see what they think. I didn't get the impression that they were really attacking our epidemic, which is diabetes. You gotta get the sugar out of the cells if you don't want the virus to duplicate. And so let's go back in history again a little bit. In 1879, Dutch farmers came to an agricultural chemist called Adolf Meyer about a scourge of tobacco mosaic disease that was killing the tobacco plants. To find the cause of the sickened tobacco plants, Meyer thought of an infection was to blame. Finally, Meyer extracted sap from the sick plants and injected them into healthy plants and found they became sick. And that's when they came to conclusion that it was the virus that was causing the injury. So Earth is a planet of viruses. So let's talk about Columbus a little bit. You know, Columbus, 1485 or so, on a ship, came to the Caribbean, went to some of these islands where there were beautiful, healthy-looking people, but after a few months, they were almost all dead. What happened? Well, Columbus, and the animals and plants that he was carrying had viruses on them. And then those viruses multiplied among the people, and they had no antibodies against them. They were never vaccinated. They had no experience with these viruses, and they were totally wiped out. These beautiful people were wiped out. And then the viruses spread, influenza spread. And they went through other countries. People wanted to, there's a group of people there, and they wanted their land. They would bring the virus there. Vaccination was not occurring. And they conquered land by spreading the viruses around. Columbus, the viruses he brought over killed a lot of people. So new viruses are constantly emerging. They change their gene structure. Our immune system attacks them to a point, but they keep on changing their gene structure all the time. We can't kill them all. So a new disease every day. So why are they emerging? Near misses, bird flu, cow disease, Ebola, SARS, MERS, swine flu, COVID-19. Will it continue? Will it keep on multiplying? We're going to have another epidemic, and that's the reason Bill Gates speaks about the next pandemic across the world, and his book explains things you could do to track them very closely, have health departments help poor countries. And so in 1972, smallpox, where you get these pox in your skin, was eradicated, essentially. They still have a few viruses in some laboratories. We had a chaotic response to COVID-19, and we did not contain it, and we lost a lot of people. So we can't predict what's going to be next. in the 1970s, Yale and Harvard downsized the science departments because we thought after the eradication of smallpox, there weren't going to be any more viruses. Well, we were wrong. Vaccines are now made by industry. They used to be made by the government. And because industry's making them, they're not as cheap. And if it's not making money for the company, they stop making it. So maybe it's a good idea that our government keeps on making some also. Because if there's no virus around for a while, the industry may shut down, and then we're not ready when the next epidemic, which will turn into a pandemic if we don't do something about it. So viruses carry no energy. They have no metabolic system. A lot of people think, and it probably is true, viruses are a non-living thing. Because to be living, you have to have a metabolic system. You have to have a source of energy. A virus only gets its energy by entering another cell and stealing the energy. But if that host doesn't have much energy available, by not being a diabetic, being a normal person, there may not be enough energy to keep the virus alive. I noticed myself at 135 pounds, and I teach health, and I'm not bragging, I didn't always weigh that. I never seem to catch a cold. I wonder why. I'm sure I'm exposed to it because I'm out in the public a lot. I go to public events a lot. Maybe it's because I'm not providing a sugar these viruses need to multiply to give me the flu. I haven't had the flu probably in 20 years. I'm not bragging, I'm teaching. I'm teaching. Listen, read. I'm not the final word here. And contact, if I had infected and that person had a contact with me, it's good to test that person to see if you picked it up. And like I said, distancing and wearing masks can help. And there is a Dr. Offit, MD, a book that he wrote. And I want you maybe consider reading it. You can get it at the library. If you go to Amazon Books, you can get it pretty cheap. Let me tell you about a little trick on Amazon Books. They'll have price if you get the original book, but they have used copies at the bottom that are about 10% of the price of the original book. I do that all the time. Mm-hmm. I've bought many used books that look just like a brand new book the majority of the time, and I give them to people, like $4. Here they are. And I may save many lives with it. And what he's saying in his book, Deadly Choices, how the anti-vaccine movement threatens us all. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we know it is extremely scientific. Get vaccinated. Get vaccinated for what is available. And this science is constantly changing, but we, especially children, you might say, oh, I think vaccines cause harm. But let me tell you something. With that, you don't get vaccinated, and you get the virus, and then you may give it to one of your kids, and he dies. That happens. You're responsible, or your neighbor dies, or your loved one dies. Get vaccinated. You can see the measles in Texas right now. 1% of the people die from it, and they are dying. Yes, and some of these are, it's based on religion, okay? I want you to have religion. We all need religion, but if your religion says not to get vaccinated, God will save you. But let me tell you something, you may die. You may kill your neighbor, your friends, the people around you. You may enter a church where a few people are not vaccinated, and you sit there and you listen to the service. Your breathing there may infect a lot of people, and there starts an epidemic or pandemic. Mm-hmm. That has happened. That is in history. So let me read to you a little bit from the back of Paul Offit's book. And in 2014, California suffered the largest and deadliest outbreak of whooping cough in more than 50 years. This tragedy was avoidable. An elective vaccine had been available since the 1940s. In recent years, other diseases like measles, mumps have also made a comeback. The reason for these epidemics can be traced to a group whose vocal proponents insist, despite evidence of the contrary, that vaccines are poison. As a consequence, parents and caretakers are rejecting vaccines for themselves and their families. In Deadly Choices, infectious disease expert Paul Offit takes a look behind the curtain of the anti-vaccine movement. What he finds is a reminder of the power of scientific knowledge and the harm we risk if we ignore it. How about that? How about that? And pretty important. So schools, if viruses are going around, close contact, you're more likely to get it. Then we have herd immunity if a certain number of people, but it's different for different viruses. In some, you need 95% of the people have had it or be vaccinated, and the odds are the other 5% won't get it. But some herd immunity is only 50%. Yeah, so it spreads around anyway. And what your kids are eating is important. If your kids are all sugar eaters, they're more likely to catch a virus. Viruses love sugar. They have no metabolic system. They enter your cells, maybe in your lungs, and they're multiplying because you provided the poor food. And so vaccines, we have many different types. We have live viruses we inject people with. Some inject with killed viruses, and some are based on the RNA or DNA that's in what you're injecting with. Thomas Jenner is the one who developed the vaccine, or thought of a vaccine for smallpox in 1796, and was the start of our knowledge about vaccines. Most vaccines that we use are tested on animals. The U.S. government created for the coronavirus 19 the Operation Warp Speed. Operation Warp Speed. So vaccine production and research became faster, and the vaccines were distributed faster. And Pfizer and Moderna, two pharmaceutical companies, developed them and was funded by U.S. government. Vaccines became potential political issue for the 2020 election. Politics got involved. May 5th, 2020, a conference was held at the Rose Garden at the White House, and at that time 1 million had been tested. By then, COVID-19 was caused by the virus of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Our immunity can kill them. B cells watch out for invaders, and they can make antibiotics and kill the virus. T cells come and destroy the virus. So we can have a dead virus, and then the T cells come by in our body, our own immunity, and then kill the virus, get rid of it. So antibodies are different for each virus. Vaccines help the body to prepare. They fight new viruses you can get infected with. Each type of virus has a different shape, too, different number of genes in them. So side effects of vaccines are mild. Somehow the rumor got out there that they are severe, but we find out that the side effects are very mild. So vaccines protect people, okay? Get vaccinated if you're not vaccinated. They're different for different ages, and you need to go to your provider. Most of them do have that knowledge, or you find it online. So the polio virus, which paralyzed people, and I remember being in medical school, and I needed to make some extra money to pay for the tuition, and there was a huge room at Indiana University Medical School that had in there paralyzed polio patients. My job was to help them when they were paralyzed in the respirator to save their lives. I didn't know enough about, I assume they must have been in a non-infectious stage because a lot of them had tracheostomies, and I sucked their fluid out so they could breathe. But here I am, 89 years old, 135 pounds, and no pills. Hey, maybe I was lucky. No, I think mine was a response to the science. But the polio in 1952 infected about 60,000 people. 1% developed paralysis. And then they invented the Salk vaccine by Dr. Salk in 1955. And the last case of polio apparently was 1979. And so May 8th, 1980, smallpox was wiped out too. The World Health Organization announced. So it's been 180 years, a little more, since the Jenner discovery of the smallpox vaccine. So I've given you really a lot of history there. And what would I like you to do is to check with your provider and online and get the knowledge about your need for vaccination. The other thing is I beg you to pay some attention to your serum insulin and your blood sugar. Make sure you're not diabetic. Our government, our hospitals, our doctors are allowing you to be diabetic. Here's your insulin. Insulin pushes sugar into the cells. The sugar's still there. What I want you to do is to learn to eat a keto type diet. In Europe, there is a Dr. David and Jen Unwin, U-N-W-I-N. They have a lot of YouTube shows, and they wrote a book called Fork in the Road. And I'd like you to read that. They also have great websites on there, and they talk a lot about the psychology of eating sugary foods because they make you feel good. Dr. Unwin and his wife, Jen, both were diabetic, but they were open-minded. They were open-minded and studied and ran studies in the English healthcare system. And they studied it and realized that that information was correct. And now they're thin. And Dr. Unwin and his wife Jen are the two most famous people in the world teaching how to prevent, reverse diabetes. And if you're eating right and you don't have diabetes, the odds of you getting infected from a virus is way down, because the viruses are sugar feeders. They need energy. They need energy. Good books to read, too. I held up the one here for you. A Planet of Viruses. It traces the history very nicely. Good book to read. The other one is Understanding Coronaviruses by Raul Rabadon, right here. A good book to read. You can get it at the library. Probably buy it for $2 online, and if you get an audio book, or they can be a lot cheaper. And remember, they used copy. So a beginning of information, but a lot of this stuff probably told you much more than you already knew. I'm glad to reread all this. And let me tell you a little bit about the vaccines here. A good book, COVID-19 Vaccine. And I'll go through it a little bit too. And this is very easy to read. Diseases are caused by bacteria and viruses. The virus SARS-CoV-2 causes COVID-19. Mm-hmm. The immune system protects the body from disease. It produces antibodies that recognize specific viruses. So your body can fight it. And if you're a non-diabetic and a healthy person, you may not get infected. Like I said, I haven't had a cold, a known viral infection, unless I was asymptomatic, in years. Some vaccines prepare the body to fight against viruses. There are three main types of viral vaccines, live and killed, and I already spoke about those, and a RNA and DNA virus, okay? The U.S. funded Pfizer and Moderna to develop them. I already mentioned that to you. And Russia and China did huge research for them too. So the beautiful thing is that now we can develop vaccines a lot quicker, yes. But still, we like to avoid the infection because the vaccine may be too late, may not work well enough for you. Remember in New York, the most people that died from coronavirus 19 were type 2 diabetics. 80% of them, 80%. And I don't want anyone to die. And as Bill Gates said, try to keep it local by early diagnosis, by early masking by social distancing to make sure they have the money, the public health money, to run tests, to afford vaccines, to share money with poor countries, I think is important. And so what is a vaccine? Let's talk about that a little bit. Bacteria and viruses cause diseases. Both are too small to be seen by the naked eye. Bacteria are tiny living things. They enter a person's body. Then they cause disease by making chemicals called toxins. So bacteria can do it too. Viruses are even smaller than bacteria, and they invade living cells to steal energy and replicate. And they can, so viruses can change genetic material, such as RNA and DNA, and then they can start running the machinery of the cell. And they're less likely to die if you have unhealthy cells or antibodies that can kill it. So each virus has a different shape, okay? And the coronavirus, for example, has these things sticking out, which are proteins, and they stick the cell like a lock and key and latch onto other cells to get the energy to stay alive, So getting vaccinated is critical. Here's one for you. Vaccines do not cause autism. That's part of the reason people don't get vaccinated, is that I get a vaccine, I'm going to get autism. Well, actually, that is not true. But it's still, information is still out there, and it is hard to convince some people of that. It may be a church belief system that you don't get vaccinated. But I think we've covered the story of vaccines fairly well. What can you do? Well, stay informed, and if a new epidemic is occurring, watch your distance. Don't attend huge public events. I avoid them, especially at those times. But let me tell you, a pandemic is going to happen. If you look in the past, they occurred and can occur at any time. It could be every 5 years. It could be every 20 years. They've occurred for thousands of years. They're going to occur again. You've got to be prepared by getting the proper vaccines, by being a healthy person. Being a healthy person helps tremendously in my main focus here at the wonderful Andrew Carnegie Library is diabetes prevention and reversal. That's my focus. I hope you join us. And I don't know if the latest Get Indiana Healthy Again, if that's going to make a difference, because I noticed the things they're going to do, there wasn't one there that aimed at the arrow directly at the school system. We have a school system that is addicting our children to sugar. We are people who have to eat there, unfortunately, will be sugar addicts. Some do part-time and may teach some habits to eat bad food away from the schools, yes. But you can find me online, YouTube, here at the library, this wonderful place where I give lectures, where we get radio. Now I'm starting podcasting. and we will make people better. We want you to live so you can play pickleball or tap dance with me. Why did I do this? I love you. I care about you. I think after listening to this for an hour, you realize that that's true. And we'll see you next time. Join my war, Rudy's war on diabetes and viruses. Love you. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.